Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make my all-time favourite pickle, and that's pickled aubergine. It's quite simple to make and it doesn't need any special ingredients, and the end result is packed full of flavour. These go great with any meal, and their tangy garlic flavour is perfect for bringing life to boring dishes. If you're new here, I'm Obi, and I'll see you back here in a short while for the taste test. First thing we need is a bunch of aubergines. I'm going to be using 1.5 kilograms or about 4 large aubergines, and they'll be enough to fill up a jar about this big. They'll reduce quite a lot when we salt and cook them, so you can halve the recipe, but anything less won't give you much pickle. In terms of skin, I'm going to be leaving it on my aubergines for added flavour, but many people choose to peel them completely. The choice is up to you, and you could always alternate between peeled and non-peeled strips for decoration. Make sure to wash your aubergines thoroughly, then you need to slice them into rounds about 1.5 centimeters thick. After cooking, their thickness will reduce by 50%, so this way they'll still have a fairly meaty texture. Yours should look something like this. Once all the aubergines have been sliced, place them in a large bowl and we'll now salt them heavily. This is just regular table salt, and I'm adding about 2 tablespoons to the aubergines, which we'll use to draw out their excess liquid. In the past, aubergines used to have a very bitter flavour, and salting them draws out excess water with their bitterness. Modern varieties of aubergines rarely have that issue, but the salting also helps the cooking process. By removing extra water, the aubergines cook quicker, and in turn they'll spend less time frying and will absorb less oil. After coating every piece in the salt, let your aubergines hang out for about an hour. Here's what mine looked like when the time was up, and you can see there is a pool of brown liquid at the bottom of the bowl. If I squeeze the aubergines, loads of water comes running out, and that's exactly what we wanted. Take your aubergines to the sink, then wash each slice individually to remove all the excess salt. Be thorough doing this, and then place them in a colander to drain. Here I'm stacking a few pieces of aubergine in the palm of my hand and squeezing them together to squeeze out all the excess water. I'd recommend doing this so that the frying oil doesn't splatter when we add them to the pan. Before cooking the aubergines, we'll make the pickling liquid. Traditionally, you'll use a large amount of garlic and vinegar, so I'm going with 8 large cloves of garlic, which you want to mince very finely. This measures out to be about 2 tablespoons of garlic, and I'm topping that with a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin. Lastly, I poured in 120 milliliters or half a cup of white vinegar, and you could replace this with another vinegar instead. Mix this all together and the pickling liquid is done. To cook the aubergines, I'll be frying them, which is the way we do it in Egypt. There's also a Greek version which uses charcoal grilled aubergines, so you can do that instead. Fill a frying pan with about 2 centimeters or an inch of frying oil and heat it on high heat. Once the oil has heated, test it with a drip of water, and if it reacts like this, we can add the aubergines. Take your slices and place them in the pan one by one, making sure to lay them away from you. That prevents the oil from splashing at you, and you want to fill the pan with enough pieces so that they don't overlap. These will now fry on high heat for about 4 to 5 minutes until they are a light golden colour on the underside. To prevent the oil from splattering, I've covered the pan with a splatter guard, and I'd really recommend one if you fry often. When the aubergines look something like this, they can be flipped over and they'll cook for an additional 3 to 4 minutes. Once the time is up, your aubergines should look something like this, but if they don't, extend or decrease the time slightly to get to this golden colour on both sides. Pull your aubergines out of the oil and allow them to drain for a few seconds before placing them straight in the pickling liquid. Add the next batch of aubergines to your pan, and I also added 2 green chillies which I poked with a couple of holes for steam to escape. While those fry, I took the time to make sure each slice of aubergine was thoroughly coated in the vinegar and garlic, then I stacked them up and made space for the next batch. All that's needed is to repeat the same process with the remaining aubergines and make sure they're thoroughly mixed together once cooked. At minimum, you should let the aubergines sit for 6 hours before you eat them, but their best flavour only emerges after at least a day in the fridge. Here's what my container looked like when I'd added in all the aubergine and the green chillies. You can keep this covered in the fridge for about a week, or even longer if you submerge them in oil or vinegar. I've decided to jar my ones, and at the bottom of the jar I've added some thinly sliced green chilli. Then I just stacked my aubergines in there, and I filled in any air gaps with pieces of aubergine. Once I got to the top, I added more chilli, then I poured in the remaining pickling liquid. Finally, I poured in a bit more vinegar to make sure all the aubergines are submerged. Now this isn't a professional jarring job, so if you plan on keeping these for longer than 2 weeks, please do your research into safe jarring and how to prevent botulism. I let my aubergines sit in the fridge overnight, and the next day I was greeted by my favourite pickled food. I don't think there is anything these aubergines won't go well with, but in particular they are amazing in falafel sandwiches. Now let's check out the taste test. The great thing about these pickles is that they literally go with anything. They're most commonly eaten during breakfast, but I'll happily knock them back with any sort of main meal. The garlicky and vinegary flavour goes really well with the fleshy texture, and I think they're great for anyone trying to forego meat. Thanks for watching, and I hope you give these pickled aubergines a try. If you enjoy them, send me a photo on Instagram and let me know what you eat them with. Thank you to our amazing patrons for their support and helping make these videos possible, and I'll see you all soon in the next video.